Hey, Grinder School. This is CFTheNatural, and I have a session that I played on Juicy Stakes Network that I'm going to be reviewing. As you can see, we have two tables here. On the right, we have a 4 PLO table, and on the left, we have a 10 PLO table. And so let's go ahead and get into the review here. On table 2, I have a pretty junky hand here. I don't know that I'm going to complete this. No, I fold it. Table 1, we have a big pot going. We had some really loose players on table 1. This Pete the Rock, 76-69. As you can see, crazy wild player. Folded that hand, but he doesn't fold too often. Table 1, I have junk. I'll be folding that, I'm sure. Table 2, I pick up a decent hand. I'm checking out Pete's stats. We get a raise from this tag, OMG Sean Austin. I decide to fold it, I guess. I probably could have maybe flatted there, but it was triple suited. It wasn't that strong of a hand, really. Let's see what we got. We're going to be folding here on table 1, it looks like. Let me fast forward a bit here, since I'm not involved and there's not a ton of interesting action going on. Okay. And looks like we're still folding there. So let's go forward again. We'll watch this hand on table 1. A decent sized pot going on here on a paired board. Here I pick up a nice hand on table 2. Here we have a double suited rundown. No reason to 3-bet in a spot like this. I'm just going to call. This is a great hand to go multi-way. Table 2, great hand to see a flop. So we're going to do that. Unfortunately, we don't really hit anything on this board. We got top pair, but that's it. We have almost no way to improve unless we hit runner, runner, or another 9. So my guess is I'm going to be letting that go. Here on table 1, I pick up jacks with a suit. I do have a dangler. I'm not sure if I decided to call here and see a flop or if I just let it go. Let's see, I do decide to call, and I hit top set. So let's back up here a sec. So notice that I go ahead and bet out basically full pot here on table 1. We have top set. We do not have any other kind of draw, really. We don't have a straight draw. I mean, 10 jack, that's no. And we obviously don't have a flush draw. If I had a flush draw, I could play this hand a bit slower. But in a case like this, where we basically have top set and that's all we have, we want to be putting money in the pot generally as fast as we can, making our opponents pay the maximum price to draw out on us, because we do have so much equity, but we just have so few ways to improve. Basically, a jack will give us quads, and then we need the board to pair. And by the time of the turn, you've only maybe got 20% equity to do that. You're only going to improve 20% of the time. 4 to 5 times, your top set is all you've got. And so there are differing views on this. There are some people that feel like they don't want to scare their opponents off. I understand, but believe you me, in a game like Omaha, where it's just so easy for somebody to have a big draw, you don't really want to take that route. At least I don't think so. If they're going to draw out on you, you want them to pay the maximum price. You don't want to be betting 40, 50 cents into this pot like you might in Hold'em and try to keep someone around, because it's just so much less likely that they can draw out on you. And even then, I feel on really wet boards, you should be betting more like 2/3 pot. But in PLO, you want to be betting pot. If the turn is a brick, I'll be probably betting pot again. And if people fold, then fine. But I'm not going to let them draw out on me for a cheap price. I'm not going to give them 3-1 odds or something to draw out on me. So I get a call. Now I hit my full house. And that's a nice notice. I'm not going to bet full pot now because I've hit the stone cold nuts unless he has a pair of 7s. Or maybe I do. No, I think I'm going to bet less. I'm going to bet a decent amount here. So I bet 220. hoping that he's drawing on a flush, or maybe he has a naked jack or something. He gives it up. But if that board hadn't paired like that, I would have been betting full pot on the turn. So here on table 2, we pick up naked jacks, but we have fairly connected cards. So hopefully we can see a cheap flop here. This person raises. We might call this here. We don't have a suit, but we do have pretty connected cards. So it's a 50-50. I don't have a problem calling. I don't have a problem folding out of position here. I decide to fold it. But you could call here. It's not a terrible play. But unless you hit a straight or a set, you're probably done with the hand. And I wouldn't hit anything here. So that probably worked out. Here I would have had like the 4th nuts. A 6 obviously is the nuts, and then you had aces, kings, and queens. So I would have the 5th nuts with my pair of jacks. Flush comes in now. That doesn't mean anything on a board like that because a full house. Anybody that has a pair has a full house. And, well, he does win with a flush, but this is a horrible hand. I don't know what he was doing playing, calling a raise with a piece of junk like this. That's really terrible. Here we got a big pot going on table 2, where we have our looser players. So this could potentially be interesting. This Sinescu is pretty tight, so for him to call, I got to believe he has a big hand here. I really do. I don't see him putting money in without a pretty big hand. Let's pause this and take a quick look. So game over had top 2 pair, aces and kings. That's it. No other draw. This person here had kings and 4s. That's a pretty terrible play. I think it's too easy for someone to have top 2 pair here. I don't like it. This Sinescu, I'm really surprised. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, he has a wrap, but it's not really that many outs. I guess 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, I guess obviously any 3. I mean, he's got a decent amount of outs. I guess any 3 would give him a straight. The problem is, he's got to worry about hearts. See, this guy's got the flush draw, so some of his outs are killed by hearts. But there are 3 3s that could help him. 2 8s that could help him. That's 5 outs. And I guess a 5 would help him. That's 3 5s. That's 8 outs. He's got maybe 10 out. He's only got 10 or 11 outs. He's really only got like 20-something% equity. I don't like this play. I really don't. To put your whole stack in on just a draw on the turn like that with a flush draw out there, I don't think it's a good play. Let's see what happens here. But I think that was not smart. And yeah, this guy won with 2 pair. He wasn't smart to go in with 2 pair, I don't think, but I think that was a very poor play over here by Sinescu, in my opinion. And this was really bad with just the kings and 4s. That was a terrible play, so I don't like that one either. Really do not. Here on table 2, we pick up a nice hand, aces with a suit. The 8 is a dangler, but we do have a nice hand there. I don't think we'll 3-bet this. We'll probably just call. If we had a stronger, 4th card without a dangler, here we complete to add for 10 cents. We don't complete. We call for 10 cents, but we don't hit anything. So let's pause this. Here on table 2, he checks to us. We just really have our overpair. We don't have really any kind of a draw. So the question is, do we want to just sort of check and control the pot, or do we want to try to make a bet and since this guy's fairly tight, push him down, push him off a hand here. The problem is this board's pretty coordinated. If he has any piece of it, he's probably not going to fold. There's not a ton of money in there. So if I bet 20 cents, for 20 cents, if he has any kind of a draw or any kind of potential, he's probably not going to fold, is the problem. So I don't know that I'm really going to be accomplishing a lot here. And so I do check. Yeah, a bet just doesn't do much for me in a case like that. I'd rather just, now that he checks a second time, I decide to bet because I probably have the best hand with my aces, and the river isn't going to really help me, and I might as well charge him if he is drawing at this point. So I like the way I played that. I checked the flop, I bet the turn, and that worked out. Let's just pause here real quick and see. So it looks like our friend here, game over, got it in. All he had was a flush draw. He had a pair of jacks. Okay, so he had third pair and a flush draw and is willing to put $2 in. I don't think that's very good. And this guy had aces and threes and then got lucky and hit the straight on the river. Oh, both kind of overplayed it. Two pair on this board isn't particularly good with a made straight there and a flush draw. And here with just a naked flush draw, I mean, you do have a pair, but it's third pair. I don't think that's all that good either. I don't like either one of them putting much money in there. I don't think it's really worth it. I'm sure I'll be folding on table 1 and table 2 here. Let's kind of speed things through a bit. Yeah, it looks like, okay. Here, yeah, all I've got is 2 cards. You know, the side cards are so crappy, even though you have a suited ace-king, it's not worth it. Should go. Here we have a decent-sized pot going on table 1. Our friend Pete the Rock is involved. Guy I really want to get in a hand with if I can pick up something decent. In the interim, I'm just marking players. It's a pretty wet board on table 1. I didn't have anything, but that's a pretty wet board. Pete's willing to get his money in. And let's see if this Piroshka can call, and he does. And let's see, they split it, so they both have straights. Okay, they both have straights. So on the turn he had a straight plus a pair of jacks, and this person had queens plus a straight draw, and they both hit the straight on the river. Okay, so nothing major to really talk about there. Guys like that aren't going to give up a hand like that. So here I have a rundown on table 1 with a suit. So I'll probably be calling Pete's bet. Yeah, I have position. I have a nice rundown, and of course he can open with any 4 cards, and does open. On table 2, I do have 3 broadways here, but I'm not suited, so I give it up. You know, maybe on the button I might limp behind. So let's see what we have here on table 1. So they both check. I have the bottom end of the straight with no flush draw. It's really not a very strong hand. Not true, these guys are playing somewhat loose, and you know, they nothing but, again, this is a drawy board. We have a flush draw. We have potential straight draws. And so I don't know that they're really going to be folding with any piece of this board. So I don't really accomplish anything by betting here, I don't think. If I had a made straight, maybe, you know. But I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to check. I just don't really have enough here, I'm guessing, to really make a bet. And I do check. Yeah, there's just no reason to bet here. I just didn't hit this board hard enough. And it's too wet of a board. And people like this don't fold if they have any piece of the board. And now they check again, but I still don't think betting is really good. I might maybe stab at it, but no, I just check, and I like that. Now I hit my straight. Now I get lucky and I hit my straight. I basically have the nuts now. So now I do have to try to get some value on table 1. And I will probably bet 2/3 pot or something around that, I'm guessing. So he bets, I'm sure I'm going to be raising this. You notice I'm thinking, how much do I want to raise? What can I get him? I was going to hit the pot button, but I'm thinking, well, I don't want to blow him off the hand. So let's just make a decent size raise, which I do. And see if I can get him to call. This guy could call with 2 pair. He could call with top pair. I've seen him stack off with literally like king high on the flop. I'm talking of the turn, you know. So he could call pretty wide here, and he does call. And we take down that pot, and let's see what he had. Oh, he had a set of 7s. Okay, so he really didn't have a lot here. He had 7, 8, 10. He had a gut shot. 3, 4, 5, 7. Okay, so he had a double gutter. He needed a 6 or he needed a 9. But the 9 would have given him, you know, the bottom end of the straight. Not that a player like this would care. And of course, any diamond would have killed him with a flush. Then on the river, he hit a set of 7s. If I knew that, I would have potted. I would have bet even larger because I don't think he's going to fold. But I still managed to win a decent sized pot there. So that worked out nicely. Here on table 2, we have a pretty wet board going here. We have a made straight. We have a flush draw. And so really tiny bet here, 16 cents, but Punky does that a lot. But that is not a really good size bet on the board. Now the board pairs. So this is about as wet as it gets. You got a paired board. All you would needed would have been a made flush. You got a made straight. You don't have a made flush, but other than that, you've got a really wet board. So, and everybody folds out there. And it looks like Pete got busted here on table 1. He just had a draw, it looks like, and lost out. Here on table 2, I have 3 broadways and a suit, but I'm out of position, and I have a dangler. So I'm trying to decide if it's worth it to maybe call and see a flop. I'm thinking about it, but I fold it, and I think that's the right play. I don't think it's worth it out of position, even though this guy's obviously at 85.30 is a pretty big fish. So looks like Pete reloaded here. That's good news. Let's speed through a bit since not a lot is happening. Looks like I refill a bit. All right. I'm double suited here. I do have a suited king. A pair of 8s isn't much good unless I hit. I could try to limp here, I suppose. I am in the cutoff. You could raise too, but I decided to let it go, and I don't have a problem with that. I could have maybe tried limping, but it's just not that good of a hand, you know? It really isn't. So I really don't have a problem with just letting that hand go. I think that's probably the best. Here on table 2, again, I pick up the good old triple Broadway with a suit, but a dangler, and I'm out of position. I might consider calling here because Pete the Rock literally raises with any 4 cards, and this is a better than average hand. But again, out of position, I fold it, and I think that's the best play. There are a lot of boards like this I'm just going to miss, and it's not worth it. So I think that's the best way to go. Let's move forward a bit here since we're not involved. I still don't have anything. We can see what happens here. Pete gets pushed in. Oh, here we go. Let's quickly analyze this. We have a big pot here. Almost 100 big blinds in the pot, 91 big blinds. So this Perushka has, holy crap, he has ace high. Oh no, he has a, I'm sorry, he has a straight. I missed 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I thought, oh my God, no. He has a made straight. Pete has a straight draw, 8, 9, Jack 10, and a pair of 5s. That's pretty horrible. He has no flush draw. He just has an open-ended straight draw and a pair of 5s. Knowing his luck, he may get there. He may hit a 7 or a queen, but he's crushed at this point. Let's see what happens. And he hits his 7. Unbelievable. I called it. Look at that. He frickin' hit. Only 2 cards in the deck would help him, a 7 or a queen, and he frickin' hits his 7. Wow. Terrible break for this guy. Unreal. I tell you, that's how guys like this win. You know, they get their money in bad and they get lucky. I mean, what can you really say? I complete here. I have connected cards and a suited ace. And then this guy decides to raise. He does that quite right. He's a laggy player, 40-24. So I call. Unfortunately, I don't really hit much here. Not that he necessarily has a lot. All right, let me talk about what I did here, okay? Because this is something I've been experimenting with a little, and I'm going to be doing a video on this, like a lecture video. So what I'm going to be lecturing on is check raising in PLO. And when I talk about check raising, I don't mean when you have a hand. You know, when you have a big hand, check raising is an easy thing to do. If I had Jack 4 on this board, you know, or even any kind of good Jack or something, pair of 4s. What I'm talking about is when you basically don't have anything and you're up against an opponent that's pretty loose that you know is going to be c-betting a lot. The best boards to check raise on with nothing, and again, I'll be doing this in more detail in a video, are basically a paired board like this where they're unless they have a Jack, they really can't do anything, or like a monotone board. You know, board that's all diamonds, for example, and if they don't have a flush, what can they do? Now, in a spot like this, a guy like this, if he doesn't have a Jack, you know, and doesn't have a flush draw per se, or a weak flush draw, what's he really going to do here? He knows I'm a tight player, and I'm showing extreme strength, so he really has to give it up. Now, this is an all or nothing play. If he calls me, or he re-raises, I have to dump the hand. I'm simply doing this to try to take advantage of his loose play. I checked into him. He c-bets this board pretty high. It's not very likely that he hit it. And so I'm just saying, hey, if you don't have a jack, you got to go. It's not something you should do all the time, and you want to be careful who you do it against. You don't want to do it against a guy like Pete the Rock, who just never folds, but against a player who's, even though this guy's kind of laggy, 46, 24, he's a relative thinking player. And so I think that this can work out pretty well sometimes, and I do it not that often, but here and there when I think it's a good spot. I think this was a good spot to try a bluff check raise because I just don't think he probably hit this board. And he just can't continue if he didn't hit the board, and he gives it up. So I will be doing, like I said, a short lecture video about that topic, but that was a pretty good spot to, I think, take a shot at that. Here on table 1, I have a low rundown with a suit, but the very low cards. I fold. I could call 20 cents on the button, see a flop, but this guy's very likely to do what he just did, which is to 3-bet it, because his 3-bet is almost 30%. And I don't want to put a lot of money in with such low cards there. I just don't think it's worth it. Any flop like this, and I'm just gone. So it wasn't worth it to me, even though that was a rundown. Here on table 2, I pick up aces with a suit. So I'll definitely be playing this hand. I may just call here because the pair of 8s kind of weakens it. I might raise, though. Let's see if I raise it. I just check it. There's so many flops that are just not going to help. So I just check it. Now we do hit a set. So now we're going to be betting pot probably. Yeah, because we don't have a flush draw. And it's a bit of a drawy board. So we want to try to charge anybody right off the bat. We get a call. The board gets uglier. That's not good. But what do I decide to do? I think I'm probably going to bet again. Let's see what I bet. I do. I slow down a little bit in sizing because the board, if I get check raised, I'm in a lot of trouble. And he does, not check raise, he does raise me. So see now, this is why I didn't bet full pot here. If this had been a brick, if this had been like a king, or if this had been like a deuce, then I can blast again. But when this comes, it's now real easy for somebody to have a straight or a combo straight flush draw or something, have a lot of equity. So I bet smaller, still wanting to charge draws. But if I get raised, then I really have to decide, do I want to call? Now, in this case, it's another, 45 cents? But the problem is I've only got the 1-8, 3 3s, 3 10s, 3 9s maximum. So I've got 10 outs. That's like 22%. So almost 4 out of 5 times I'm not going to improve here. Without a flush draw, it'd be different. If this was an 8 of clubs, I wouldn't even hesitate. But without the flush draw, I don't know if you're going to hit often enough to make it worth it. Although this guy's fairly loose. I might take a chance and call. I do decide to call in case I get lucky and hit. Unfortunately, I don't. I don't improve. And so at this point, I'm probably going to have to let it go. But I think with the implied odds there, I think what I did was looked at it and said, okay, this guy, and he actually had he hit the straight, but he had a set of 9s. So actually he had me beat anyway, set over set. So I got away pretty cheap there, considering. I only lost 82 cents. That's not bad for set over set. So I'm okay with that. The flush came and that scared him, is what happened. But I think what I did there, let me pause this for 1 sec, is I looked at the implied odds and I said we have an 81-28 player. He's playing pretty loose. If I can hit, I might get a lot of money out of this guy. And so I decided to make the call, and it was only 45 cents. It wasn't like I was putting a few dollars in there. So I decided that was worth it. But a lot of the time in a spot like that, you do have to fold if all you've got is just your set against multiple players. I was only against one player there, so I think it made it worth it to make that call and see if I could possibly hit on the river. And I really didn't lose very much considering that it was set over set. So I have no complaints there. Here I've got a double suited, somewhat connected hand. The problem is I'm under the gun. So I do make a smallish raise, knowing that Pete will probably 3-bet me. And he does. And I can call. This hand is connected enough. I can call his 3-bet. I'm sure I do. Yeah, so we see a flop. I don't hit a lot here. I do have a backdoor flush draw. I do have top pair. So he makes a full pot bet, which is what he does. I decide to call. And the reason is because this guy, I mean, you look at his numbers. Not only is he 68-59, but his aggression factor is really high, but he's winning less than half at showdown and going to showdown almost half the time. So this guy, he could have a piece of this board and he could have nothing. He could just have an overpair. So if I can hit 2-pair here, if the turn is like an 8 or something like that, a jack, I can easily stack this guy. So that's really why I called. Unfortunately, the turn now brings a 7 of spades. This gives me a nice straight draw. I have a 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have an open-ended straight draw here. And 7, 8, 10. So I have quite a few outs. But the problem is with a made flush, I could already be beat. This is a kind of guy with even a deuce-high flush. He's never going to fold here. So I'm in a pretty awkward spot here. And the pot is not small. So I probably check to him and see what he does and then decide, depending on how big of a bet he makes, if it's worth it. So I check. Of course, he goes full pot, which is what you expect with a guy like that. Now, let me just quickly say here, and I'm trying to decide, how many outs I have and if it's worth it. If this was not a 7 of spades, I, might have decided to go with this hand against him because I have a lot of outs to a straight, and I do have top pair and could hit a 2-pair. He may have nothing more than the pair, but when this comes, the problem is it worth it? If I put all my money in and he just got lucky and hit a flush, I'm getting stacked in a spot where I'm really just drawing. Is it really worth it? If I had a set here maybe or something, but I really just have a pair right now and then, an open-ended draw, but really a wrap. I have a small wrap. I've got like 10 outs or something like that. But some of them could be dirty. Well, the flush is already out there, so that doesn't really pertain. But they could be dirty in the sense that if he's already got a flush, hitting a straight isn't going to help me. So I think what I ultimately decided here, and the way I like to play these, is when a guy's this bad, do you really need to risk your money on something like this when he's probably going to give you a better spot? And so I think I decide to let it go because I just think a guy like this will give me a better spot. If the flush wasn't out there, I think I might decide to go with this hand because I do have a lot of outs. But if he got lucky and managed to hit a flush, I'm just going to give away my stack here. And for what? Against somebody who, doesn't even know how to play the game. It's just not worth it. I can wait for him to give me a better spot, and I'm pretty sure that's what I did. I'm trying to figure out here what my outs are, whether I do decide to fold. I just think I can get a better spot. He may not have had a lot here, but he could have gotten lucky and hit a flush, and that would really suck. And, then I lose a monster pot, and it's just not worth it. Here I didn't hit this flop. I raised on the button with a pretty nice hand, but I just don't really hit anything. And so I decided to give it up. Here, 6, 7, Jack, Queen, I decide to call. I do have a suit and pretty connected cards. I hit top pair, but that's all. Somewhat connected board, not too bad, but I don't really have a big part of this board. And I probably let it go. Yeah, I just don't have enough of this board. I don't have enough ways to improve. It isn't worth it. I'm looking to hit a big hand against a guy like this and then really get some money in. But I need more than just a pair. I mean, a guy like this can be a gold mine if you can hit a nice hand. But because he's just raising so wide and then willing to get a lot of money in. But you have to, pick your spots carefully. Here I decide to go ahead and call the small raise because I could hit a set, I could hit a flush draw, could hit a big 2-pair. Unfortunately, I completely brick it. Here I go ahead and limp on table 2. I have a pretty nice double-suited connected hand. If I can get in cheap and see a flop, and if someone raises, I could call a raise because it's a pretty connected hand. Here on table 1, I just fold. I completely missed the flop. Table 2, now this guy raises, but I'm in position on him, and I have a nice connected hand, so I think it's worth it to see a flop. Unfortunately, we don't really hit the flop, and so we're just going to let it go. But if we'd hit it hard, and he's got a big pair, we could win a big pot. Table 2, I decided I think to fold this. I might call. I have 3 broadways plus a suit. Do have a dangler, but I'm in position, so I decide to call. And I think it's a 50-50. You could fold this, but this isn't a bad hand to see a flop within position, and it's a small raise. So we don't really pick up much. We pick up a gut shot, but we don't have a flush draw. He makes a full pot bet. I'm trying to decide if I really have enough. I probably don't. If I had a flush draw, I would call this bet. But I don't have a flush draw, so I give it up. Again, it's just not worth it. Not against a 74-21 that'll probably give us a better spot. There's a big pot here on table one. Let's pause for a moment and take a look. All right, so this guy has two pair, 7s and 3s. That's not a good thing to stack off with on this wet board like this. And this guy has a set of 8s plus an open-ended straight draw, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, he's got this guy crushed. This is terrible. Terrible play by GOX. Of course, he's a 76-19. He's not a good player, but bottom two pair on this board, that is not something you want to be stacking off with, and that was very poorly done. Flush comes in, but yeah, he's whipped and he hit his straight. That was terrible. Terrible play. He deserved to lose that $4, and he leaves the table, but that's what fish do. That's what fish do. Let's fast forward here. I don't think we'll be calling with this hand. Well, 4, 5, 6 plus a suit. No, we let it go. It's not really a good hand. So we let it go. Pete makes his usual 3-bet and his pot size bet like he always does. Oh, we get it all in here. Let's see what happened here. So Pete had a flush draw. That's it. King high flush draw. I mean, the pair of 5s are pretty meaningless. And this guy had 4, 5. And he didn't have much. I guess on the turn he picked up a flush draw when they got it in. So he has a flush draw and 4, 5s and a gut shot. He has a flush draw and a gut shot, this Peroska. And all Pete has is a king high flush draw and, oh, I guess the bottom end of a straw. That's on the river. Bottom end of the straight comes. So no, he just had a flush draw. That's horrible, but that's what this guy does. Wow. I'd probably let this go here. Out of position, yeah. So let's fast forward a bit. We're not in these hands. See what else happens. We pick up again 3 broadways with a suit. We do have a dangler. We could limp behind here because we do have 3 broadways and a suited ace on table 2. And we do decide to do that. I think that's the best play. It's not worth raising. It's not that good of a hand. Unfortunately, once again, I break the flop. It's what I specialize in. And that's about that. I'll be letting that go. So let's fast forward. I'm sure we'll be folding on table 1. Yeah, we just didn't hit that flop. So let's fast forward here. Okay. That's a nice starting hand. All broadways, a suit, very connected. I would think we'd raise here, and we do raise. It's a good hand. May not hit the flop, but it's a good starting hand. Very good starting hand. We hit top pair with a gut shot. I'm in position. I could c-bet this. I could also check, but I could c-bet this. I decide to check. It's a pretty wet board, and I probably don't want to start building a pot, which I agree with. Now the board pairs, and all I've got is a pair of jacks. I'm probably going to let it go. It's just too small of a pot to really be worth it, you know. It's just not going to be worth it, I don't think, to be... Yeah, I just let it go. Definitely not worth it. Okay. Top off my stack. Let's fast forward here. This pot's gotten pretty good size. Oh, Punky wins it with 2 pair. Okay. We have a suited ace here, but we're under the gun. Cards aren't that good. I'm guessing I fold it. Yeah. And here I have junk on table 1. I'll be letting that go too. So let's fast forward. Not much is going on for me. I'll let that go. I wouldn't mind seeing a flop here on table 2, but it's not a particularly good hand. We are double suited, but we don't have anything. 5 high flush draws, nothing. Jack high flush draws, not great. The 4, 5, 7 are somewhat connected, but it's not a strong hand by any stretch of the imagination. And so it's just myself and Punky. And it's a monotone board. We don't hit any part of it. Well, we hit a pair of 7s. Okay, I guess technically. We just check it. This is just this little tiny pot. You could stab it, but I don't know that it's worth it. I'd rather wait. That's a spot where you could try to check raise, but maybe not against this opponent. That's a board you could check raise maybe. A monotone flop like that, paired board. Because somebody really can't continue if they don't have a pretty good piece of it once you raise them. I'll let this go. Yeah, it's not much. Let's see what I get here, and if it's no good, I'll fast forward. No, it's not very good. It's a pair of 9s. So let's fast forward. I'm just not picking up cards here, and that's something I'm quite well used to. So we'll keep moving. Pete makes his usual big raise. Here, this is interesting. So he makes his big raise. This guy shoves all in. I don't think Pete's ever folding. Yeah, never folding. Be interesting to see what he shows up with. The question is, does this guy have a hand? And he's thinking. He does decide to go, all right, this could get interesting. We got $7 in the pot. And we're only at the flop. So let's see what happens. They check it. Check it again. Wonder if either one of them has anything. Oh, he had a pair of aces. Okay, so check this out. So he made it 240. And I don't blame him. He didn't have a very big stack, and he had aces with a suit. His side cards are junk, but against Pete. So Pete has 5, 5, 6 king, and he calls a $2.40 raise. I mean, look at this. Well, first he made it 55 cents with this piece of shit, so that was obviously sheer, stupidity, and then he calls a raise. This guy has 7, 10, Jack, King. I don't like it. He does have 3 broadways, but he's only suited to the 10. If he's suited to the king, I'd like it more. I just don't think this is a very good hand. I think I would have just folded this. I don't know that I would have even called the 55 cents, much less the 240. So I think this is a poor play, but that's what you expect from a 78, a 20. And of course, this was a horrific play, and that's what a huge whale does. So, okay, let's move on. We'll fast forward here. I don't seem to have anything, which again is my specialty. Okay, here I pick up a double suited, somewhat connected hand. If Sean Austin, OMG Sean Austin raises, I could call a raise here. He doesn't though, so I get to see a flop cheap. That's always nice. Unfortunately, all I hit is a pair of 8s. I don't have a flush draw. Here in table 1, I limp behind with 3 broadways and a suited ace. Not a bad hand. Unfortunately, I don't really hit much on the flop, just a king. But I think it's a good spot to limp on the button like that with a hand that you could get lucky with. If you can hit a flush draw or, a big straight draw or top 2 pair or something. If this is an ace, I'm in pretty good shape. But I have to let it go. I guess I call 4 cents here. I have a gut shot, right? And technically top pair, so for 4 cents. I was getting something like 7 to 1 odds. I don't know if I'll take this any further. I hit a straight, 7, 8, 9, 10 Jack, but there's a higher straight out there. I don't think I can bet this, no way. The question is, can I call a bet? I do have, the 7, 8, 9, 10 jack on table 2, but nobody bet, so that works. And of course he has a flush and 9. So see, I really couldn't bet there, and I don't know that I could call a bet. I really don't know that I could call a bet. Let's fast forward here. We don't really have a lot. I still don't really have anything here. Yeah, still don't have anything. I don't think I'll be playing this hand unless it limps to me. If there's a raise, I don't think he raises. I don't think there's any way I'm going to call that out of position. My side cards are really crappy there. Yeah, I let it go. So that's pretty obvious. Well, here we go. Jack's double suited. I am under the gun, and the 4's a dangler, but I'm sure I'll be raising this. Yeah. Here on table 2, yeah, I let it go. That wasn't a strong enough hand. Out of position to everybody. Table 1, I'm sorry. Table 2, I don't have a big hand, but I have a better than average hand by far. And I am double suited against one player. That's going to be particularly good. So, not a good flop for my hand. And OMG, Sean Austin is thinking about it while I check out his stats. So, in a spot like this, I miss this board, but it hits my perceived range. When you raise under the gun, you very often have big cards like this. So this hits my perceived range. And this guy is a taggy player, 1810. He doesn't fold to C-bets that much, 38, but this is a spot where, I can check back because I have some good showdown value. I do have a backdoor flush draw too. And I have a gut shot, 10 jack queen, but I can C-bet this too because this hits my perceived range. If he doesn't have, a pretty decent piece of this, he really can't continue. So I could go either way here. I think I decide to C-bet, and I like that just because this really hits my perceived range. And I still have a lot to fall back on. I've got a gut shot, I got a backdoor flush draw, and I got a pair. It's third pair. But my point is, if he calls, I've got some equity, and if he doesn't want to call, then I take it down right now, and I'm great with that. But he's got to think that this hits my under the gun raising range. And a player like this is a thinking player. Now he does call. I pick up a flush on the turn. So I will probably barrel this again. I'm guessing I'm going to bet this again. Yeah. No, I check it. Okay. I check it. I could have maybe barreled there though. But I guess I want to keep the pot small. But maybe I should have bet that because now he can lead into me. What do I really do if he leads into me? Puts me in a tough spot if he leads into me. And he does lead into me. So now I've really kind of got to decide. And I'm trying to look at his river aggression and figure out, now his river aggression's really high. Notice something here. His flop aggression 14, turn aggression 14, river aggression 76, I think that is. So I'm trying to decide, does he really, can I maybe check raise him here? Not check raise him here? Did he really hit something? But there's a flush out there. There's a straight out there. I think I'll let it go, but I keep in the back of my mind that in the future I might try to take advantage of. He's the kind of guy where I think when he misses on the river, he pretty much always bets. I mean, look at this. And so I think I'm thinking about, well, maybe I can take advantage in the future. I let this go, but I'm thinking about maybe at some point that river aggression figure is so high that I might be able to take advantage of him. And I think that is probably what was on my mind. Let's fast forward here. We don't really seem to have much. We do see a flop here, but we don't have a lot. Do we? No. So we're not going to be doing much on this board unless we hit something on the turn. Here we have a pair of kings, but no suit on table 1. We complete, but we're not going to be looking to play a big pot with just a naked pair of kings, as you can see. And that's all we have is a naked pair of kings. And we just let it go. Yeah, we just let it go. And doesn't look like we've got much. Still just trying to wait for some decent cards. It looks like he just won a fairly good sized pot. Nothing huge, but we're still not really catching anything. So let's keep things moving. Since we're not really involved in these hands. If I see anything really interesting, here 8, 9, 10 ace. We do have connected cards. We do have a suited ace. If it folds to us, I'm going to raise this, I would think. So I should be raising here, and I do. That's good. 10 cents, my standard button raise. Unless I hit a really big hand, then I'll raise more because I want to build a bigger pot. But that's my standard button raise, generally about 10 cents, 2.5, you know. And let's see what happens. Up against this short stack bug man. He's trying to decide if he wants to call or he's got a hand going on another table. Let's just pause this for a sec. I just want to see what happens. So this Igrillo got his money in. He had a gut shot and an 8 high flush draw, and that was it. And he got his whole stack in. And this guy had the 3. So he had trips. No flush or straight draw, just trips. But that was good enough, I guess, for him. So he got it in with trips. He just had a 8 high flush draw and a gut shot. So pretty bad. Pretty bad. And that's what fish do. Looks like I'm looking to see if there's any other tables. There aren't. So I'm kind of stuck. We're just going to keep fast forwarding here. Okay. Crappy side cards, but I do have a suited ace jack, so I'm going to make a min raise on the button. I hit 2 pair, top 2 pair. I'm assuming I will be c-betting here for value. Probably, yeah, 32 cents. I was going to say 30 cents. He calls. Turn isn't particularly great for me, so I check. The river, yeah, there's no point in betting. And he has a pair of 10s, so he ends up, I mean, what a horrible run out. 6-6. That gave him the hand. I had him pretty much crushed. 10s against aces, and then, of course, runner gives him the full house. Huh. Better to be lucky than good, I guess. That's unsuited. That's no good. We want to fold that. Oh, Pete the Rock left. That's quite a shame. That guy was a potential gold mine. I fold there. All right, let's keep going. Just not really hitting enough hands. I see a flop here. I do pick up a nut flush draw. Pair of 10s don't mean much, but I do have a nut flush draw. A gut shot and a nut flush draw. King, queen, ace, 10. I have a gut shot and a nut flush draw. But against 3 opponents, not really enough to bet. And we brick everything, of course, because that's what we do. And see here, Sean Austin bet on the river like he does with his high aggression figure, and he gets raised. And this is what I was looking at doing to him at some point. And he has to give it up. He's got a very high aggression factor on the river, and I think he stabs at a lot of rivers when he misses. And eventually people are going to start calling him on that. Let this go. We're down to 4 players here, and well, we picked up a 5th here. I decided that was just a junky hand. I could have maybe min raised, but it's pretty crappy, so I decided to just let it go. Here, I go ahead and raise. I have 3 broadways and a suited ace and 8-10, fairly connected. 8's a dangler, but not that much. It's only 1 gap from the 10, so this is a decent hand, and so we'll make a small raise. Unfortunately, we brick. We do pick up a gut shot and a pair of queens against only 1 player. So we might take a stab at this. If he doesn't have a flush, what does he really do? So we do. We're going to bet 10 cents, it looks like. at this pot in position. He calls. Turn is a brick. I still have a pair. I still have a gut shot. I think I decide to bet again, thinking that he may have just floated me on the flop. Yeah, so I bet. A lot of guys will call one bet and then just go. But this is 50-50. Sometimes I'll just check, give up. Sometimes I'll take a stab. So on the river, I hit my straight. Ace 10, King, Queen, Jack. But there's still the flush out there, and he's called two streets. Here on table 2, I hit a full house. So, and this guy bets 10 cents into 28. So let's see what happens here. He checks to me, and I check back. He did have the flush, see, so I kept the pot small there. That was not a river I wanted to bet on. So now I think I just called. Now he bets 10 cents again. I have to raise here. I've got a full house, 2-3 on a 3-2-2. And I want to charge this guy. He's a horrible player, Billy Hazel. So, and look at this, 10 cents again. I think I'm probably just going to put him all in. Yeah, we're going to put him all in. And he folds. So he put in all that money. He put in what? 80% of his stack and then folded. Wow, that's what fish do. So I finally pick up a pot here on table 1. And this guy said, nice check there. But, you know, what hand that beating me is going to call? What hand that I'm beating is going to call there, you know, with my straight. I'm only getting called by flushes. You know, I'm not getting called by 2 pair or we're straight. So there was no point in betting in that spot. That would have just been stupid. And I say, what calls me that I beat? You know, that just would have been a waste of time. So, yeah. We continue to really have nothing. Well, let's fast forward. Here we see a flop, but we really don't have anything. Backdoor flush draw. I don't think we have enough that we can really do bet this board. I don't think we can really call a bet either with just a backdoor flush draw. So I'm probably just going to fold here, even though this guy's a huge fish, 86.9. I just don't have enough. So we're just going to let it go. All right, let's keep moving. I'm just not picking up cards. So we're just going to keep fast forwarding. 6-8 Jack Ace. I'm trying to decide. It's somewhat connected cards, but I fold. I could maybe call there. I would certainly limp behind. I don't know that it's really worth calling a raise though. I just didn't really have that strong of a hand, so I don't think it was really worth it. Here, pair of 9s and a suited king. I let it go. Again, not a great hand. I could maybe try limping that, but not particularly great. And Billy Hazel gets it in with just a king? Is that all he has? He rivers 2 pair. Yeah, he just has a king on that board. Boy, this guy is terrible. Really terrible. And Billy Hazel is quite the fish. Quite the fish. Now we're down to 4 players on table 2. I'm just moving forward here. That's a junker hand. Yeah, I should dump that. Not even on the button, it's not really worth raising. Okay, table 1, we pick up a rundown. 8, 9, 10 Jack. This is a hand I want to see a flop with. I'm guessing I'm going to call this raise, even though I'm out of position. This hand plays nicely multi-way. I wish I wasn't triple suited, but it plays nicely multi-way. Unfortunately, as usual, I don't hit anything, and I'm going to have to dump this. Unless I somehow turn a 9 and nobody bets and I turn a 9, I have to let this go. I just don't pick up anything here. Yeah, I'm not going to call a pot size bet, and it's gone. Okay. It's a shame. It was a nice starting hand, but what are you going to do? All right. Billy Hazel wins a big one there. He hit a wow. A turn gave him a full house. Crazy. Here I see the flop because I have queens double suited, but I really, don't hit anything. If anybody has an ace, I'm just toast. So I think I'll probably just dump it, right? Yeah, what are you going to do, Here, I wouldn't mind seeing a flop. 3-4, king 10 with a suit, but I don't know that I'm going to call a raise out of position here. Yeah, I fold it. It's a good fold. It's just not a good enough hand. So, yeah. All right, let's keep moving. Here we get kings with a suit. I will be raising this on the button. Probably my standard 10 cents. Maybe I'll go 12. I go 12 here, I guess. It's just three of us. It's it's a stronger hand with just three people. I think I bet this because it's a pretty dry board. Yeah. Decent spot to see bet. This guy's pretty straightforward. He doesn't have much money. If he wants to stack off with me, I'm fine with it. This Detroit on table 2. If he wants to stack off, great. You don't have any money, sir, so I'm fine with that. Here on table 1, I do pick up kings with a suit. I'm sure I'll be playing this hand. And probably raising. Yep, I'm going to raise that hand. Let's see what happens on table 1. We're sure to get some calls. That's a crappy flop for this hand. No flush draw, no straight draw. I just have my pair of kings. That's a shame, so I'm just going to check it. We pick up a flush draw on the turn. That does help a little. I might bet this. Yeah, I do bet half pot since there's only 2 opponents. Charge somebody this turn. I have a flush draw to back it up. Now the river, unfortunately, all I get is, well, I hit an ace. I have a pair of aces. I assume I check this, and I'm good. So that worked out okay. Yeah, all this guy had was a flush draw. That was it. So I charged him on the turn, and that paid off. On the river, I'm not getting any money out of him at all. Here on table 2, I just have a pair of 8s. I don't think I'm going to be playing that. I'm guessing I'm going to fold it. Right? Yeah, fold, of course. So that's good. Let's keep moving here. I keep looking to see if other tables are opening up. They're not. Here I make the call. I think this isn't bad. 5-6 Jack Queen double suited, connected cards. I do end up flopping the Jack high flush. It's only the 3rd nut flush. So I call, but I don't want to just start piling money in. Here on table 2, I also pick up a hand. We're going to raise. The deuce doesn't change anything. I check again, see if these guys will lead. I don't want to play a huge pot here, but so I just go ahead and keep it small. That's a shitty river card, though. The board pairs, you never know if you get unlucky. But I'm fine with playing small ball here with only the 3rd nut flush. It's too easy for somebody to get lucky. And look at that. He hit his full house. So maybe I could have bet more earlier. But look at that. He had a set of 10s. So he wasn't going anywhere. No, he wasn't going anywhere. So I kept the pot small, and that was good. I want you to notice that. Notice he flopped a set of 10s. So even on this monotone board, an 86-9 is not going to probably fold that. He did get lucky in the river and hit it. But if I start piling money in there, I can lose a lot. So I try to just play, and I only have the 3rd nut flush. Ace or a king beats me. So I tried to play just a controlled pot, see if I can win a small pot. I'm okay with that, and got lucky in the river, but I don't think he's folding a set in that spot from what I know of a guy like that. Here on table 2, we hit the straight, but we don't have a flush is our problem, and the board is paired. So we can't really do well. We decide to bet, and then we get raised. That sucks. And we get raised. So we decided to bet, fold rather than just check to him. hoping to represent maybe the flush, and we do have a straight, 8, 9, 10, Jack, Queen. But I'm trying to decide if I think there's any chance. I just let it go. This guy generally, is not going to make that play without something better. So I did a bet fold there rather than just check to him. I guess I could have checked there too. It's a tough call. That's a 50-50. I've seen him call down with worse there. So I decided to make a stab at it on the river, and unfortunately it hit him. He had a better hand. So we didn't lose a lot of money there. That river was 38 cents or something, right? So no big deal. Here we have queens with no suit. We do make a min raise, but it's not a very good hand. We're going to have to hit something pretty good here, especially against multiple players. He 3-bets. I'm probably going to let this go. If I had a suit, I would call here, but without a suit, this just isn't a very good hand. Yeah, I just let it go. I'm going to get a better spot against GOX. He's a pretty bad player. Okay, here, table 1, we don't have a lot. Yeah, we really don't have anything, do we? We just have nothing. Yeah, nothing. So I don't think we're going to be doing anything. Yeah, we're just going to let it go. All right. Let's see what happens. We'll move forward since we still aren't. Okay. Now we pick up a hand on table 1. Ace is double suited. Oh, and he 3-bets us. How sweet is that? So we 4-bet him. Great spot to get our money in against a guy like this. And this guy goes in too. So everybody, and what a nice flop for us. Let's pause this for a sec. Take a look at this. Can't ask for much better flop. We have our overpair, and we now pick up the nut flush draw. And the board is relatively uncoordinated. If this was 8-9 or something, but 3-4, I mean, somebody could have a low straight. But this is very nice. He's already all in. I don't think this Il Grillo is going anywhere. And we now have a nut flush draw to go with it. So I think at this point, we're just going to get the money in. And it's a nice big pot. Nice big pot. And we're just trying to type in our bet. It doesn't work, so we move it out. We just want to put him all in. He calls. Let's take a quick look here what these guys had. I mean, so this guy got it all in, almost all in pre-flop with just 4-6 ace king. And of course on the flop, what does he hit? He hits a pair of 4s. He has no flush or straight draw. So I mean, look at this. This is horrible. And this guy has 9-7-8-9. So he had 7-8-9. Now he hit a set on this flop. He actually hits a set, which is pretty good. So he got lucky. He didn't have a very good starting hand. He 3-bet me with this thing and then called a 4-bet. He got lucky and hit a set, but I have a flush draw, so at least I got a backup. Let's see if I get lucky, and I do hit my flush. That's why it's nice to have a backup plan. And I stack both of them. Took a long time, people. 81 hands. I finally picked up a big pot. Took a long time. I finally picked up a big pot. So now I'm going to play this guy heads up because he's pretty bad. I pick up top pair and a flush draw. Check it. And I hit my flush on the river. Not a high flush, but I'm only against one opponent. Here we hit kings with a suit. We're just going to limp. Our side cards are shitty, and we're triple suited. Here we decide to go ahead and play heads up because this guy's such a bad player on table 1. We call with top pair. Table 2, I think we're going to be letting that go. The turn, we don't have a flush draw. We do have a gut shot here. A gut shot and top pair. We decide to fold. I think we'll get a better chance against a guy as bad as that. I really do. Table 2, we just don't have enough. Table 1, we're just looking for a good, and look at this, we flop a set. We're probably going to get our money in here if we can, if this guy will let us. Oh, and he raises us. That's perfect. I think we're probably just going to stuff it on him, if I'm guessing right. Yeah, we're going to hit the pop button. We're just going to stuff it on this guy. We got a set. We're not going anywhere. If he has a set of aces, so be it. He has ace, nothing, just aces. Wow. not even 2 pair. So he's willing to stack off with just top pair, and we take his money. Very nice. So we cleared out this table and basically doubled our stack. That's very nice. Our session's just about over here. So we cleared out this table too. It took a long time, people. 85 hands, but we finally picked up some cards, and we finally won. We noticed we're up to 21. We were at $10, so that worked out nice. We're just going to close the table. And here on table 2, we have aces double suited. It's a nice hand. We're just waiting it to get to us. We're going to raise, obviously. Way too strong of a hand, even at a position to just limp. So we take it down. And that's just about it. I think I pretty much end the video here. Yeah. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this hand history review. If you have any questions or comments, put it on the forum. I just want to point out that patience really paid off there. Notice that I had to wait, 85 plus hands to finally hit something, but I did. Against these type of players, you don't need to force it. You don't need to rush it. You don't need to take big chances. Notice as tight as I played, they still paid me off. They still paid me off when I hit a big hand. And that's the great thing about the micros. So this has been CFTheNatural for grinderschool.com. And until next time, good luck at the tables.